So let's talk a little bit on astrology and go through the houses in one's natal chart and a little bit about all of it. So, if you get your natal chart done, it's gonna look like a giant wheel with a bunch of spokes in it. And those are the houses. And then the planets, depending on when you were born and whatnot, are arranged around in these different houses. Now, each different house has meaning. So, if I go and I put the image up, then you can see the houses and how they arrange themselves starting at about like 9 o'clock right below that, and it goes 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, all the way over to 12. So let's go through what the different houses mean and like what influences they have. And of course, the different planets being in these different houses is the aspects of what sign the house is, what planets are in that house will have influences on what each house is about, creating that snapshot of your personality. So, the first house, it starts the zodiac, your natal chart, right? That's all your first impressions, the self, your appearance, what other basically how you appear to other people. Leadership, new initiatives, fresh starts and beginnings, the sign on the cusp or the starting edge of this house, that's your rising sign or your ascendant, as they call it. And the first house is ruled by Aries. So the second house covers all matters like your material and physical environment, everything around you, your five senses, and it also concerns income, like money, and your own self esteem. It's ruled by Taurus. So, by the way, every house is ruled by a sign, right? But that doesn't mean that that particular house is always going to be that sign. So, like, if some like I'm an Aries, so my first house is Aries or whatever. You know, somebody else, they're depending on when they're born, they are born under a different sign, so that has to interact with Aries because Aries rules that house, right? So it's all these different aspects interacting, basically creating a soup of a snapshot that influences who you are. So the third house, that's communication, like talking, thinking, commerce, and even electronics and such. And it also has to do with like your family, your community, your environment around you, and even think like anything that has to do with like communication and learning. So we're talking like books, libraries, and even your school environment and things like that. The fourth house, that is, let's see. So that's the foundation of things. That's your basic baseline. So your home, your privacy, your security, and also your parents. So like that it will speak to what you were born into, all that stuff that's grounded. It's ruled by Cancer. Third house is ruled by Gemini. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but backtracking a little bit. Anyway, fifth house. That's self-expression, drama, creativity, color, attention, romance, fun, and play. And given that it's self-expression, you can kind of guess that it's ruled by Leo. Okay? So the sixth house, ruled by Virgo, that has to do with schedules, organization, routines, your own health, and also helping others. So health of yourself and those around you. The seventh house is ruled by Libra, so that speaks to relationships and partnerships, both in your personal and business affairs, and so effectively contracts, agreements, marriage, and anything that you do for business. Anytime you shake hands, that kind of stuff. The eighth house is ruled by Scorpio, and that has to do with birth, sex, death, transformation, mysteries, and anything that goes really deep emotionally. So it also governs other people's stuff and other people's money. So real estate, inheritances that you get, help from family that you get, any like stocks, bonds, stuff like that. So the ninth house is ruled by Sagittarius. This is like your higher consciousness and basically anything that covers a long distance, expanding yourself, expanding your consciousness, anything like foreign language, travel, being optimistic, any type of long range communication, like broadcasting radios, I guess you could say, and even higher education. Anytime you're trying to expand the things that you know. It also has to do with religion and morals. So the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn, and let's see. So that has to do with any kind of fame or achievements that you get. It also has to do with authority. It's associated with fatherhood. And the border of the 10th house is called the midheaven, right? Because it's pointing like straight up. So the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, and that has to do with friendships, group society, technology, electronic media, social justice, rebellion, and anything about caring for your fellow man, essentially being selfless, bleh, stuff like that. So anything you can think of as being Aquarian, not really applying to the rules, but always wanting to be very, very generous, very nice, very outgoing, supporting everybody. And also futuristic stuff. So the 12th house, that is behind your head. It's kind of like life lessons. It's associated and can be associated with like the end of life, old age, um, separation from society, basically like the stuff that is almost of a mystery to you, the things that you are always going to chase. And like I have a lot of things in my 12th house where that speaks to my interests that are never ending, such as spirituality, magic, and all that stuff. And it also has to do with imagination, creativity. You know, it's behind, since it's like right behind the first house, right? And the first house is your appearance. Well, what's behind your appearance? It's everything in your mind. It's kind of what pushes you forward, what drives you. And it's kind of like the end of the road, also. So now that we talked about all the different houses, what we're going to talk about is some aspects of the different houses. So the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses are the angular houses. So you got to think of these following aspects, like the angular houses I'm just talking about. Those also further influence what the individual houses are about, which is also influenced by what planets are in there and what sign they are under and what sign rules it. So it's layers upon layers of influence, right? So the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses are angular houses, and they represent activity and the ability to move forward. The second, fifth, eighth, and 11th houses are the succeedent houses, and they have to do with stability. And then the third, sixth, ninth, and 12th houses are the cadent houses, and they have to do with learning and influence, the angular houses. So the third, sixth, ninth, and 12th actually play an influence on the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses. So there's all these different layers when it comes to what is in your chart. So you got to look at what planets they're in, what houses those planets are in, what sign rules those houses, what category of houses they are, whether it's succeedent, angular, or cadent houses, right? And I'm trying to think of one more detail. What the sign that rules the houses, the sign that the house is actually in, the planets that are in there, and exactly where they are in the chart. And then you got to take a look at what squares what trines what, and how those different planets interact with each other. So it's all these different layers of interactions that, as you go more and more and more into this stuff, you can kind of decipher different things about a person's personality, and you can actually even take two people's charts and kind of lay them over each other to see how they would get along. Or you can compare your birth chart to a current transit chart to get an idea of, okay, this planetary movement that's happening now is influencing the planetary movement that it's in this relation to this planetary movement that is part of my natal snapshot. So it is going to more specifically influence me in this way. You can get really, really complicated with astrology, which is super fascinating, and it's a really deep rabbit hole to dive into. So let me know what you guys think about this. You can drop anything in the comments and whatnot. You can connect with me on my social media with all the links and stuff, including my email that you can find at the end of this video. And let me know if you liked this little explanation of astrology stuff, and I will probably do more of these. But let me know, and yeah, good hunting. Thanks for watching my video. So if you want to check out my playlists, I have, among others, the Simon Necronomicon, the Tree of Life, General Magic, Tulpamancy, a playlist on my books, the elements, stones, the theories that govern magic, and the gods and goddesses of Mesopotamia. If you want to check out my books on Amazon, I have Creating Consciousness, Magical Mechanics, Magical Theater, Handy Sigil Magic, Magical Mastery, which is a combination masterwork of magical theater and magical mechanics, and The Guide to the Spheres and Beyond. You can also find me on Facebook at Magickology YT. You can email me at priestofthenecro@gmail.com, and you can even check out my Instagram, which is Magickology. And good hunting.